Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas and spent it eating lots of good food and with lots of great company. So I am coming back to you after a month-long hiatus. I know I said I was going to do another video and then it just didn't happen, so I'm doing one now and hopefully I can keep the ball rolling and do some more videos. So today I'm going to be doing my recap of 2017 with regards to races and any other events that I did during the year. So I know this is going to be a long one and I apologise for my attire as well. I'm wearing a big dressing gown. It's been snowing and I've done my back in somehow. I woke up this morning, it was really bad. So you're going to have to put up with this, but yeah, this is probably going to be quite a long video as I go through the recap for the races that I've done this year, so I'm just going to go straight into it. So the first race that I did this year was London Winter Run. That was in February of this year. This is the medal, very pretty. They always do very pretty medals. I've done this the last 3 years and it's probably one of my most favourite races. The atmosphere is always brilliant and it's quite a fast and flat course. There's not really any hills there and I always kind of really enjoy myself during that run. With regards to training before the run, I didn't really have any expectations going into the year as such. Everyone wants PBs for races, but I hadn't really thought that I would get a PB on this race because my training was okay, but I hadn't done any speed work or anything like that, so I didn't have my hopes very high for getting a PB. The race actually went really well. I did end up getting a PB, so I think it keeps going blurry. So my last PB was 101 something, that was last year I think, or the year before. And since then I've done 10Ks where the heat has really got the better of me, so I haven't really had the chance to beat it. This is usually one of the runs where I can because it's usually quite cool, and the cool weather actually really paid in my favour this year. And I got a PB of 59:10 for London Winter Run. That was the chip time, but the course was really long, so it was 6.6 instead of the 6.1 for a 10k. So I suspect my time was probably around 57, which I was a bit gutted about because you kind of want the best time that you can get, and the fact that the course was long, which made my time longer, was a bit of a downer, but yeah, it'll do. I still know that I probably got around 57, so I was happy with that. So that was the first race over and done with, and it kind of set me on a high for things to come. So the next race that I had was Cambridge Half Marathon, which was in March. Now, if you know me from reading my blog, you'll know that I'm not a fan of long distance and I dread half marathon training every year, but for some reason I seem to keep going back to it. So I'd been training for Cambridge Half, I'd been doing my long runs, they were all going well, but kind of, again, it didn't really have any expectations going into the race. I'm just kind of not that sort of person. I'm not really competitive. I kind of want to enjoy the experience of running rather than being so set on times. I know other people are and that's completely fine, but for me, I kind of want to enjoy the experiences rather than being too bothered about the times that I get. So didn't really go into it thinking I would get a PB out of it. It was a bit of a ropey start anyway, so I kind of thought that a PB wouldn't be on the cards. It was very windy, very rainy, very cold at the start of Cambridge Half. There was no cover from any of the elements whatsoever, so at the start of the race I was pretty numb and pretty cold and kind of pissed off, to be honest. I kind of thought, well, that's it, I don't really need to try, there's no way I'm going to get a PB. But I did, again. It seems luck was in my favour here and I ended up getting a PB there. So I did it in 2:15:13, if I remember that time correctly. The PB for my last half marathon, or the my last PB was 2:18, which was back in 2013 on my first half marathon. And I've been struggling ever since to beat it. I've either done routes where there's been a lot of hills, and we don't have hills in the Fens in Cambridge, so I didn't really have anything to train on with regards to that, or it was stonking hot and ruined any chances of getting a PB. So this was kind of the one opportunity where the weather was sort of in my favour except for the start, but yeah, it ended up being in my favour because I got PB, so I knocked 3 minutes off, which I was super happy about. When I crossed the finish line and I saw the time as I crossed underneath the barrier, I burst into tears, and a volunteer thought that I'd been injured, so he had to pull me to the side. But yeah, that was another PB for 2017. I was on a roll, so I was pretty pleased with how training was going. So then it came to May, so May was Wings for Life. If you haven't heard of Wings for Life before, it's the race where you are chased by a catcher car. So there's no set distance for the race, you kind of run until you're caught. So the race started, and then 30 minutes later, catcher car starts, and over time it builds up its speed and eventually catches everyone. I managed to do 7.3 miles. I'm not quite sure on the time, though I'm not bothered about the time. It was more about the distance for that sort of race. But yeah, that was pretty good, except for the heat. The heat seems to catch me out every time. I was looking forward to doing it next year and trying to beat the distance, but unfortunately they seem to have changed the way that they've done the race, and it's now app-based, so it isn't really as fun anymore if you're not being chased by a car for the race, so I won't be going for beating that next year. So in April, the year before I did that race, the open water season started. So last year, Philip and his mum and his auntie all did the Great North Swim. I wasn't open water swimming at the time, so I watched the event, and that kind of sparked an interest for open water swimming. So I started in August of that year and couldn't wait for open water season to start the next year. So open water season started in April, and we booked for Great North Swim. I was determined that I was going to do it, even though I was really nervous. I only learnt to swim a couple of years ago, so this was kind of a big deal for me. But yeah, on the day, the wind and the rain were out, and I thought, okay, that's it. I almost didn't want to start the race to begin with because I was that scared of getting in the water and drowning or something, but it was fine. The choppy water was a horrible experience, but I finished. I didn't drown. I'm here. So yeah, that was a really good experience to do, and I'm looking forward to doing it again next year. So that race was 42:13 that I did the swim in. That was a mile-long swim. I think I'll probably do the mile again next year, and see whether I can beat my time. I can't remember whether I showed you the medal, so I'll show you again just in case. So this is the Great North Swim medal. So that was that. I then continued on to do the open water swimming. I was cycling and doing my runs. I had booked onto my first triathlon, which was a very scary experience. That was set for September, but I'll talk about that later because that was my last race of the year. The next one was Great Newham Run. Again, I've done this quite a few years now. The Great Newham London Run, and that was pretty hot. I didn't have any expectations for that. I wasn't really running any more than probably 4 miles for the sprint triathlon training, so I kind of shot myself in the foot for that, and it was hot anyway, so there was no chance of a PB, but I did that in 1:06 because of the heat, so it was 7 minutes off my PB, so there was no chance that I was doing anything there. But it's always a good race, although this year the stadium build-up wasn't as great this year as other years. It seemed to be pretty empty. They'd staggered the waves further this year, which meant that the people that started first and the spectators probably left the stadium early, so they didn't get to be there when the slower runners finished. So there wasn't that pump that I got from the previous years, which was a little disappointing. It's been better over the last couple of years that I've done it, but unfortunately not this year. So then came the big finale. It was my first triathlon in September, so I did Wellborn Abbey as my first triathlon. Wellborn Abbey is a spectacular place, but I was a bit nervous about the routes because it is in a very hilly area, and I've heard that the cycling part of Wellborn was pretty tough. So I did it, it was all fine. The swim went really well. I did the swim in 15:30. That was for 800 metres, I think. Yeah, 800 metres. Then the bike portion, which I was dreading most, it looked uphill right from the start. I was worried about transitions, but it turned out not too bad. The first route was kind of a what to expect kind of thing, and then the second route you're a bit faster because you know what to expect. So the bike route was in 49:19. Then comes the fun part, because you have to put the bike back and run straight from being I've been cycling, so you kind of have that jelly legs feeling. Luckily, through my training, which I was pretty religiously doing, which I was pretty happy with, I'd done lots of brick sessions, so it went really well, all of my training, and went out on the run feeling pretty confident, except for the wind. It was an out and back loop twice and then an uphill for the finish line, which was a bit brutal, but I finished the run in 26:36, but the course was a bit short for the run, so I'm expecting that if the course was the right distance it probably would have been a bit longer. I ended up with a finish time of 1:35, which I was pretty happy about. I'd never done a triathlon before, so I had nothing to base it off. You don't really base it off anyone else's times, you kind of go off your own. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of just want to enjoy the experience, and wasn't really too bothered about the time. So I was super stoked about finishing my first triathlon. I'm hooked and want to do another next year. I will probably go back and do Wellborn Abbey, just because I liked the route. I now know the course and I have something to work on for next year. So that was it. That was all 6 of the races that I did for this year. I think most of them went pretty well. I think I could probably be a bit better with my training, be a bit more strict. I definitely need to include some speed sessions. Speed sessions is something that is my weakest point. I know that that can probably help with pace if I wanted to get quicker and get more PBs, but I am not one that likes being out of my comfort zone very much. So when I do intervals and I get that sick sort of feeling like, no, you can't push anymore, I kind of just need to get over it, and just get out for them anyway. So I'm going to be including lots more of them next year. I have one race booked for next year, which is Cambridge Half. I hope that I can get close to 2:10. I know I said that I'm not too bothered about times, but I do have like a time goal in mind, but it's not the be all and end all. I won't be like incredibly upset if I didn't get that time. But yeah, that is a goal for next year, to try and get close to 2:10 or under 2:10 if I can. The training runs so far have been going really well. I will try and do some training diary videos in the new year. Then, as I mentioned, we are probably going to do the Great North Swim next year, so that will be sometime in July, and then Wellborn Abbey towards the end of the year in September. And there's a couple of more triathlons that I want to do next year. Obviously we have moved, so we're now in Stamford rather than Cambridge, and that opens up more races but kind of pushes back some others. So London Winter Run is now out of the question, which I'm really upset about. It's just too far for us to travel. The same with the Great Newham Run. I won't be doing that again for next year because it's just too far to travel. So we are going to see whether we can find some in the Stamford, Links, Peterborough area. If anyone's from the area, please recommend suggestions. We've got a couple in mind, like the Lincoln Half, the Great Eastern Run, and the Tellington Lakes Triathlon. So we're going to do them. We just haven't booked them yet. So yeah, that's kind of it. I've talked really fast and rambled the whole time trying to fit it in, trying to get it as compact as possible. Hopefully you understood what I was saying. So I am really looking forward to next year and the challenges that it brings. I may step up triathlon distance towards the end of the year, depending on how the triathlons go during the year. So I'm going to do sprint triathlons for the time being, and then maybe step up Olympic, or that might be something for 2019, but we will see. So that's it. That is everything. I've covered everything. Training is going really well so far. I'm training for Cambridge Half, like I said. So I'll keep you updated with training, and you can always check out my blog because I always update my training on there as well. So I'm hoping that I can keep up to a regular schedule for YouTube videos, but we'll see how that goes because I've said that in the past and it hasn't happened, but fingers crossed. So that is it. I'm not going to talk anymore, otherwise this video is going to be humongous. I hope you all have a great new year. New Year is coming up, so I hope you have a wonderful time, and let me know some of your goals for next year, or give me a short recap of what you did this year, or feel free to make a video and share it with me so I can see what you did this year in a recap. But that is it. I will see you in the new year, I guess. Bye.